Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Muslim Brotherhood's Morsi claims win in Egyptian presidential election. The UN demands the evacuation of civilians from Syria's Homs. And Israeli airstrike kills 2 Palestinians in Gaza. Mosaic, world news from the Middle East begins now. The Muslim Brotherhood announced that its presidential candidate, Mohamed Morsi, is leading the preliminary results of the Egyptian presidential elections. Morsi's campaign spokesman said he has 61% of the total votes counted thus far, placing him ahead of his rival, Ahmed Shafiq. The spokesman for Morsi also announced that the latter will begin forming a new government 1 week after the announcement of the official results of the elections, which are expected on Wednesday. The spokesman said that Morsi will resign from his position as the head of the Freedom and Justice Party as soon as the results are announced.
In Egypt, Tahrir Square is receiving revelers. Mohamed Morsi's supporters announced their presidential candidate's victory in a runoff round that kept Egyptians holding their breath until the early hours of Monday morning.
The
dear families who voted for me, and the dear families who did not vote for me, all of them are the children of Egypt, and all of them are my family and neighbors. All of them hold a dear place in my heart.
In the center of Cairo, the Freedom and Justice Party's campaign held a press conference, announcing Morsi's lead in the runoff round with a comfortable margin over his rival Ahmed Shafiq in different governorates.
The total number of eligible voters before this committee is 86,932.
إجمالي عدد الناخبين الذين حضروا للإدلاء بأصواتهم.
The total number of voters who turned out to vote is 45,781.
In Ahmed Shafiq's campaign headquarters, anxiety had been visible on people's faces since midnight. They were following the updates from the campaign representative and waiting for a surprise that would differ from the indications received by their rival's campaign as they confirmed their candidate is approaching the presidential seat.
Until now, the vote counting process is continuing in committees. Only about a quarter of the results were announced. The turnout is about 40%, so we're talking about 20 million votes. Whoever collects more than 10 million votes wins the presidential election. We are awaiting the results of the major governorates like Cairo, al-Sharqiya, al-Dakhiliyya, al-Munawfiya, al-Harbiya, and Kafr al-Sheikh.
2 days before the Supreme Electoral Commission's official announcement of Egypt's next president, the counting records, published by the Freedom and Justice's candidate, pointed to Morsi's lead. He has started celebrating and making vows to the Egyptian people. However, Shafiq's campaign is continuing to reject these results, assuring that the hours to come may result in their candidate's victory. Ahmed Khairuddin, BBC, Cairo.
The head of the International Observers Delegation in Syria, Robert Mood, confirmed attempts to evacuate the besieged families in Homs have failed. Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal al-Miqdad announced that the Syrian leadership has achieved 3 or 4 goals of the delegation's mission.
The head of the UN Observers Delegation in Syria, Major General Robert Mood, urged the Syrian army and the opposition's fighters to allow the evacuation of women, children, elderly, and injured people from the conflict zones. Mood confirmed that the attempts to transfer civilians from the besieged city of Homs last week have failed. Major General Mood's request came after he announced the UN observers' mission in Syria is being suspended due to the escalation of violence. For her part, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay demanded to hold accountable those responsible for the assaults on the international observers in Syria and an end to the attacks on civilians. She accused again the Syrian regime of committing crimes against humanity using heavy weaponry and shelling residential areas. Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal al-Miqdad said that Syria's leadership supports the Annan plan and has implemented a large part of what was stipulated in the 6-point plan. He stated that despite everything that's being said, Syria is supporting the mission of the observers and has provided the delegation all the facilitation it requires. He noted that the Syrian government cares about protecting the observers and their personal safety, affirming that the observers' delegation was never barred from reaching any site. Al-Miqdad believes that equipping the armed groups with the latest deadly weapons and communication devices is hindering the process of reaching a peaceful solution. In turn, Secretary General of the Arab League, Nabil al-Arabi, indicated during his visit to Cyprus that the UN observers' delegation cannot carry out its mission if the two conflicting sides do not cooperate with the delegation.
When there are two parties fighting each other, the international observers cannot simply be monitors. Someone should be there to impose a ceasefire.
On the ground, some areas in the countryside of Damascus witnessed violent clashes and shelling that specifically targeted the cities of Qudsaya and Douma in the countryside of Damascus, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The observatory asserted that regime forces resumed the shelling of the city of Homs and are carrying out operations in Damascus province, indicating that the death toll of this violence has reached 13. In addition, Russia is preparing to send 2 amphibious warships to Syria's port of Tartus, according to Interfax news agency's report, quoting a source from Russia's naval command. The source indicated that the 2 warships will carry a large number of sailors and the ships can be used to evacuate Russian citizens.
Our correspondent in Syria, Muhammad Ali, has visited al-Haffa area in Latakia countryside after the army cleared it from armed groups. He talked to eyewitnesses of the incidents there. Here's what they had to say about the armed gangs.
Armed men sabotaged nearly everything here in al-Haffa. They burned the electricity services building and the village's directorate. They sabotaged security installations. But thank God after the army entered the village, security was restored. The residents also started to come back to their homes. The armed men also used to attack civilians, threaten them and force them to protest against their will.
Al-Haffa is in the middle of our roads from Slimfe to Latakia. When armed groups were present, we were not able to pass. Armed men used to set roadblocks and sabotage properties. After the Syrian army eliminated armed groups, we got back to work and normal life. We are now able to use these roads. May God protect the army and our president Bashar al-Assad.
Well, at the request of the residents, the army took back the western town of al-Haffa from terrorists after heavy fighting. Armed groups attacked civilians and burned down and sabotaged public and private properties there. Various weapons and uniforms belonging to the militants were confiscated by the Syrian army. Some of the weapons were reportedly Israeli made, and the uniforms were those of the Jordanian military.
Two Palestinian resistance fighters were martyred and an Israeli settler was killed in a gunfire exchange during a commando operation that targeted an Israeli site near the Egyptian border in the southern Gaza Strip. In addition, 2 Palestinians were martyred in an airstrike on the town of Beit Hanun in northern Gaza.
The Palestinian reaction to the Israeli entity's aggression was swift as airstrikes on the Gaza Strip intensified in the last several days and targeted unarmed citizens. A Palestinian operation targeted Israelis near the racist separation wall 30 kilometers south of the Gaza Strip, leading to the martyrdom of 2 Palestinian resistance fighters and the death of an Israeli settler during a gunfire exchange between the two sides. Following the operation, the occupation's army encircled the area and imposed tightened security measures. The commando operation came in response to the airstrikes, which the occupation launched days ago and resumed today, with Israeli warplanes shelling sites used by al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of the Hamas movement. The airstrikes martyred 2 Palestinians in the town of Beit Hanun in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. The Israeli escalation was witnessed through intensified airstrikes that targeted the city of Rafah in southern Gaza earlier, wounding 5 people, including a woman and her child.
صاروخا على ورشة حدادة في بلدة رفح ما أدى.
Israeli warplanes launched a missile on a metal workshop in the town of Rafah, injuring passers-by and damaging a number of buildings nearby. The West Bank was not spared from the racist Israeli aggression either. 2 Palestinians were martyred and 2 others were wounded when an Israeli truck driver opened fire at them in the West Bank. A Palestinian medical source confirmed that the 2 martyrs died from fatal gunshot wounds, one in the head and the other in the neck, near the occupied city of Hebron.
We open with a terror attack in the south of the country. An Israeli contractor, identified as Saeed Fashapsha, a 36-year-old resident of Haifa, was killed by terrorists who infiltrated into Israel along the Sinai border with Egypt. Fashapsha was working on construction of the southern border fence when he was attacked. IDF forces reacted quickly, killing 2 gunmen. We get more now on this report from IBA's Dennis Zinn.
Hundreds of mourners visited the home of 30-year-old Israeli citizen Saeed Fashapsha, who was killed in the terror attack on the Egyptian border this morning. The Haifa resident, who was married and the father of 4, was struck by a bullet while traveling along the border with Egypt to work on the construction of the barrier fence between Israel and Sinai. A family member said that Fashapsha was speaking to his brother on the telephone at the time and managed to say, "We are being shot at." Those are the last words he said. IDF forces rushed to the site and engaged the terrorists. 2 infiltrators were killed. A manhunt was launched for the other members of the terror squad. The area was sealed off and the Israeli residents were told to remain inside their communities. An initial investigation revealed that the infiltrators crossed the border during the night at a point some 30 kilometers south of the Gaza Strip. They set up ambush and just after 6 a.m. they detonated a roadside bomb alongside a convoy of Israeli vehicles. They also launched an RPG rocket and opened fire with automatic weapons. The RPG missed its target, but the vehicles were struck by bullets and Fashapsha was hit in the upper part of his body. The van he was traveling in overturned. He later died of his wounds. A Golani Brigade unit that was on patrol nearby located the terrorists. In the ensuing assault, an explosive charge that one of the gunmen was carrying on his back exploded, killing both terrorists. Moshe Cohen, who works on the barrier fence, said that his co-workers feel very exposed and that there's no real protection from such attacks. Commenting on the attack, Defense Minister Ehud Barak said the Egyptian government is losing control of the Sinai Peninsula. He said that Israel expects the incoming Egyptian president to ensure that agreements made with Israel are kept, including arrangements for peace and security. Overnight, IDF aircraft hit 2 terrorist bases in the Gaza Strip, killing 2 members of the Islamic Jihad organization. 2 others were wounded. The IDF spokesman said that the attack was a response to the missiles that were launched from Gaza to Israel over the last few days. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
The commander of Yemen's southern military region, General Salim Ali Cotton, was killed in a suicide bombing that targeted him after leaving his home in the city of Aden. In addition, 2 military officers were killed and 13 others were wounded in the attack.
A military source says that the attack carries al-Qaida's hallmarks. The Yemeni army under Cotton's leadership has recently recaptured territories that were under al-Qaida's control.
Revenge from the man responsible for the expulsion of al-Qaeda members from the southern Yemeni provinces of Shabwa and Aden was swift. The Yemeni army achieved a victory in the southern provinces only a short time ago, and as a result, the commander of Yemen's southern military region, General Salim Ali Cotton, was killed. A suicide bomber blew himself up after General Cotton left his home in the southern city of Aden. Some of Cotton's aides were killed and several soldiers and passers-by were injured in the attack. Major Cotton was appointed as commander of the southern region last March. He led fierce battles against members of al-Qaeda. The confrontations ended with the expulsion of the extreme elements from the provinces of Aden and Shabwa, which are now under the state's control. One of Cotton's close aides described the general's death as a major loss for Yemen and its efforts in the fight against al-Qaeda. The Yemeni leadership, which emerged as a result of the Gulf Initiative, vowed to crush al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula. Al-Qaeda has recently expanded its influence in the region by seizing control of key cities and towns in the south. In the past few weeks, the Yemeni army, backed by U.S. drone attacks, gradually recaptured these territories, especially Aden and Ja'ar. The army has achieved successes over al-Qaeda within 3 weeks, with the credit being largely attributed to General Cotton.
The Iranian nuclear issue has been transferred to the Russian capital Moscow, specifically to the Russian Foreign Ministry. The new round of talks between the P5+1 group and Iran began with the attendance of EU Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton. The last round of talks, held in Istanbul in April, failed to reach an agreement on reducing Iran's uranium enrichment activities. The 6 major powers at the time demanded Tehran to cease its 20% uranium enrichment and swap its uranium stockpile with the nuclear fuel that it needs. Joining us from Moscow over the phone is our correspondent Karim Al-Mudaffar. Karim, are the talks ongoing between the representatives from the Six-Nation Group and Iran?
Yes, the negotiations are ongoing, but behind closed doors. So there is scarce information about what these meetings will achieve. There are also expectations that the meetings will last until tomorrow.
Is there a ceiling of expectations for these meetings?
As I've said, information is scarce. However, according to the little information that was leaked so far, the Moscow meetings will achieve little to no progress. The chance of making progress is still almost non-existent because all sides are adamant about their positions. While Iran is showing readiness to accept the proposals from the international mediators, it is also laying down 5 conditions that it insists the Six-Nation Group must approve. However, the West believes that Iran's conditions are pointless and that Iran should accept its proposals first.
Karim, these talks aren't the first of their kind between the superpowers and Iran. Does anything distinguish today's talks?
There are distinctions, especially, like I said, the conditions put forth by Iran and the condition put forth by the 6-member Commission. But Moscow is seeking to achieve any progress in this round that could be counted in its favour. But unfortunately, until this point, there are no optimistic indications in that direction. direction.
We will then wait for the results of these talks. Our correspondent Karim Al-Mudaffar from Moscow. Thank you. From Tehran, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad presented an offer to the superpowers, announcing that his country is ready to stop enriching uranium by 20% if it received guarantees that they will supply it the nuclear fuel it needs. Ahmadinejad stressed on Iran's readiness to negotiate its 20% uranium enrichment in the framework of its cooperation with the superpowers.
There are calls to include the Tigris River on UNESCO's World Heritage List.
These calls were put forth by regional and international organizations. al-Haffa has the details.
By not placing strategic policies aimed at guaranteeing Iraq's share of resources flowing through neighboring countries, which account for 65% of the potential of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in addition to the many dams built by upstream countries, Iraq lost its ability to regulate its water supplies and control the dwindling water resources. This placed Iraq at the mercy of these dams and the excess water they pour into the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The last such project is the Turkish Aliso Dam that Turkey worked on near the Iraqi-Turkish border. Studies by international organizations confirmed the dam violates 159 international standards and could possibly cause the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to dry up, in addition to its negative impact on Iraqi martial land. This led these organizations to demand a halt to this project. However, Turkey insisted on constructing the dam despite the severance of European funding. Organizations from Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and European countries initiated a project to collect the largest number of citizens asking for the Tigris River to be included on UNESCO's World Heritage List. This is a step to protect the river from the possible dangers, as in the case of Turkey building the Aliso Dam. It is also a warning of the negative consequences on future Iraqi water resources. This issue requires growing popular participation and an endorsement of the project as a way to express loyalty to the sacred Tigris River. al-Haffa, Iraqia.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Wincoat Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic. Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.